The moment the handcuffs clicked around my wrists, I looked up and saw Daniel standing across the courtroom. The man I had loved. The man I had betrayed. The man whose life I had spent 20 years trying to reclaim. Beside him sat his wife. The woman I blamed for everything. The woman who survived me. And as the police led me away, I finally understood something. The scars in my heart had destroyed far more than my own life. 20 years earlier, Daniel was my entire world. We were young and poor, but we loved each other fiercely. We dreamed about marriage, children, a future together. Then my father discovered our relationship. To him, Daniel was a nobody. A poor young man with no status and no wealth. My father gave me a choice. Marry the wealthy businessman he had selected for me, or leave home forever. I was terrified. And fear won. The night before my wedding, Daniel begged me to run away with him. I still remember the tears in his eyes. I still remember his shaking voice. But instead of choosing him, I chose comfort. I told him I never loved him. I watched his heart break. And the next morning, I married another man. Years passed. I had money, luxury, a beautiful house, everything people dream about. But I was miserable. My marriage felt cold and empty. And no matter how much time passed, I couldn't forget Daniel. Then one afternoon 15 years later, I saw him again. He was standing outside a restaurant. Beside him was a beautiful woman. Their two children laughed as they walked together. They looked happy. The kind of happy I had spent years pretending to be. When Daniel noticed me, he smiled politely. Then he continued walking. That smile haunted me for weeks. Because it told me something I didn't want to admit. He had moved on. I hadn't. Eventually I contacted him. I apologized for everything. To my surprise, he listened. Even more surprising, he forgave me. Most people would have found peace in that moment. I didn't. Forgiveness became an obsession. I convinced myself that deep down he still loved me. I convinced myself his marriage was the only obstacle between us. The thoughts consumed me. Day after day. Night after night. Until I could think about nothing else. Eventually, I persuaded Daniel to meet me one last time. I told him I needed closure. He agreed. Not because he loved me. Because he was kind. During dinner, Daniel spoke about his wife and children. The more he talked, the more desperate I became. By the end of the evening, Daniel became unusually drowsy and disoriented from the special drink I had prepared for him. That night, while he was fast asleep in the hotel room I had arranged, I undressed him and took dozens of explicit nude photos of us together. I posed our bodies in intimate, compromising positions, my skin against his face slack in drugged sleep, every angle designed to look like a passionate affair. Close-ups. Entwined limbs. The images were damning and left no doubt. The next morning, photographs existed that appeared to show Daniel and me in a hotel room. I anonymously sent those photographs to Daniel's wife. Then I waited. I expected her to leave him. I expected his marriage to collapse. I expected Daniel to return to me. Instead, everything went wrong. His wife confronted him. His family suffered. His children were devastated. But Daniel never came looking for me. Instead, he fought harder than ever to save his marriage. And eventually, the truth began to emerge. His wife discovered inconsistencies. Questions became investigations. Investigations became answers. Before long, she knew exactly who was responsible. One evening, there was a knock on my door. I opened it and found her standing there. She looked exhausted. But she wasn't angry. She wasn't even afraid. She simply looked sad. "You need help," she said. Those words enraged me. Because I didn't want pity. I wanted Daniel. Months passed. My obsession grew darker. Every time I saw them together, the anger inside me intensified. I convinced myself she had stolen the life that belonged to me. I blamed her for my unhappiness, for my loneliness, for my regrets. Eventually, that hatred exploded. One evening, I confronted her. What started as an argument quickly spiraled out of control. Years of jealousy and resentment poured out of me. I shouted, threatened. The confrontation became violent. In a blind rage, I ended up knocking her out. For one terrifying moment, it seemed as though tragedy was inevitable. But fate intervened. Witnesses arrived. Emergency responders were called. Daniel's wife survived. I did not escape. By sunrise, the police had found me. The evidence was overwhelming. The staged nude photographs. The drugging. The deception. The violent confrontation. Everything pointed back to me. When the trial began, reporters called it a story about obsession. But they were wrong. It was a story about regret. Because regret had poisoned every part of my life. On the final day of the trial, Daniel's wife entered the courtroom. She carried visible scars from what had happened. Yet she walked with strength. Daniel held her hand. Their marriage had survived. Their family had survived. And I realized something I should have understood years earlier. Love cannot be forced. Love cannot be manipulated. Love cannot be stolen. The judge announced my sentence. The courtroom fell silent. As officers approached me, I looked one final time at Daniel. The man I once believed was my destiny. The man I had spent 20 years chasing. But for the first time I saw the truth. Daniel wasn't my future. He was my past. The real enemy had never been his wife. It had never been my father. It had never even been Daniel. The real enemy was the scar I carried inside my heart. The scar I refused to heal. And by the time I finally understood that truth, it was too late.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.